is going on, everybody? How is everybody's day going? Mine is going great because my favorite band in the whole world is finally dropping music after ages. Finally dropping a single. I'm going to be able to listen to it this morning. And number two, I just watched an extremely solid episode of Star Trek. It is so refreshing to be able to watch a Star Trek series that is made in New Trek and just have 3 to 4 episodes back to back to back to back. Absolute bangers. I'm having legitimate fun, completely entertained every single episode, and I just know that the usual Joe Schmo showrunners that are working on Star Trek these days, Akiva Goldsman and whatever, Michael Chabon, maybe that's his name, I just know that they aren't the ones who are pulling these little tricks out their hat, because in this episode, there was just a handful of crazy inserts. There was just a lot of things in this episode that I loved. As a Star Trek fan, just got me super hyped. So with all that being said, let's get into it. Today we're going to be reviewing Season 2, Episode 4 of Star Trek Picard, titled The Watcher. It is titled The Watcher because in this episode, Picard basically spends the entire episode in pursuit of the Watcher, the being that, as told by the Borg Queen, will be able to explain and tell Picard what's going on with this divergence in time, and they'll probably be the individual that's going to tell Picard how to fix and remedy the situation, because Q sure as hell is not helping at all. He's just speaking in riddles and tongues, and as you can see in this episode, he's not really doing much with Picard. He's just kind of doing his own thing. Raffi and Seven, on the other hand, do not spend their time looking for the Watcher. They're spending their time looking for the remainder of the away team. Chris Rios is missing because he has been detained by ICE, and it is just so brilliant how they paint the United States, their police, ICE, and our just whack policies on immigration in this day and age. How they portray in this episode is absolutely exquisite. There is a lot of commentary on the problems that are going on in our current Earth, our current century, and on top of that, we have a young, hot Guinan in this episode, and there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about with that. Oh my gosh. Ugh, let's get into it. So basically, this episode starts off on the La Serena. Picard and Agnes find their way to Chateau Picard in this current century, and then they cloaked the ship because, you know, something's going on with the ship. They don't have a couple of their key systems, and it's very cold in there, so they go and start a fire inside Chateau Picard. During this time period, 2024, Chateau Picard is abandoned and run down. It's actually revealed, interestingly, Picard has another one of those memory flashbacks where he kind of has PTSD, Vietnam style, about his childhood, but it's always super vague. We still haven't concretely learned anything from that time period other than it's pretty obvious that Picard's father was abusive towards his mother, Yvette Picard. Down in Chateau Picard, it's revealed by Picard that, yeah, it is abandoned in this time century. He tells a little bit of history about the Picards and about Chateau Picard because it has existed apparently since the World War II era. Picard's ancestors had to like go through the sewers or live underground or something in order to escape the Germans, okay? I'm not going to say that word in this video because I would actually like it to be promoted by YouTube, but it's very interesting to know that Chateau Picard was actually home base to the Germans during World War II. And it is also revealed that the Picards at the time traveled to England to escape the Germans, which is maybe finally an in-lore answer for why Picard has an English accent even though he's a Frenchman, which from my perspective, I would just like to think that in the actual Star Trek universe, maybe Picard has a slight French accent. I don't really think that he actually talks like that, but I guess, you know, does have an English accent, and it's probably because his ancestors had to escape the Germans during World War II and had to flee to England. Agnes takes bits and pieces of information that are subconsciously arising that she collected from the Borg Queen, and then she collects some numbers, which then Picard and her put 2 and 2 together, and they just come to the conclusion that they basically have a limited time frame to save the timeline. They only have 3 days to find the Watcher and save the timeline. So for the rest of the episode, it is now find Chris Rios, Agnes toys and plays with the Borg Queen, Picard goes in search of the Watcher, and Chris Rios just experiences what it's like to be a deportee. The crazy big reveal, I would argue, in this episode, however, is the fact that they had Picard, the first thing Picard does, like he gets this idea in his head to go somewhere familiar in this time period, and there would only be be one individual who would exist during this time period that Picard would know, and that's Guinan. He goes to 10 forward on Earth during the 21st century, and he seeks out Guinan. Is a new actor playing a young and hot Guinan. Oh my god, is young Guinan pretty damn fine. It's really funny because they utilized young Guinan as a tool this episode to do that, 21st century commentary, talking about how we as a capitalist society are running this earth into the ground. We know it, and also we're all constantly arguing with each other, and we're a society that's like, oh, nothing is truly facts. We're just bouncing around ideas all the time, and we're just going to perpetually argue. There's no such thing as facts. So basically, yeah, human beings are a bunch of silly assholes right now, and we care way too much about money to the point where we hoard it all for ourselves, and even though we have all the resources and money to fix things like world hunger and global warming, we just choose not to do so because we would rather have super mansions. While Guinan is talking about all of this, I am, kind of listening to her, but at the same time, I'm just getting extremely aroused. The new Guinan is super hot. Something I will say in this episode, though, is that Guinan, upon meeting Picard, is extremely adversarial. She is fed up with the 21st century. She no longer likes being on Earth, and she is no longer messing with the humans. If you remember, it's basically confirmed in an episode of the Next Generation Times Arrow. It's the two-parter where Data legitimately loses his head through a little time loop in San Francisco, and it's revealed that Guinan actually goes all the way back to vintage Earth, back when Mark Twain was alive, and she was there chilling on Earth, chilling with the humans, seeing what they were like. So she's been here, and it makes sense for her to be here at this point in the timeline. However, she's extremely adversarial. Not to mention, she does meet Picard in that timeline, so it kind of does weird me out how she was so adversarial and she was so mean to Picard, and she was just thinking that she was some creepy old man who knew that she was an Orion, so that's a red flag right there. Maybe this guy's here to hurt her or wants something from her. In that two-parter, Guinan did see Picard's face and did, I guess, learn his name, so there was a point in this episode where Picard finally did choose to reveal his name, because this whole time he's been pestering her about, destiny sent him here. The fact that you're leaving Earth right here, right now, and this is the point where I've been sent to meet you. You've got to be the Watcher, Guinan, or else you've got to help me find the Watcher. Guinan's like, oh, screw you, Picard. I'm not going to help you at all. I don't really want to help you. You're just a weird old man. I don't know anything about you. You just claim that there's something wrong in the timeline. Something that's really cool in this episode is that we do learn there is a name for the time sickness that El-Orians feel when a damaged timeline occurs. It is referred to as Afkel. So that's pretty cool. There's like a bit of new lore that's generated in this episode that I'm extremely content and happy with. It's really sick. Also, when they're in the 10 forward bar, this guy comes in to get Guinan's Pitbull, and of course, because Patrick Stewart is starring and he's the lead in the show, there's got to be a Pitbull showing up at least in one episode of every season. And the dude who is coming in to get Guinan's Pitbull, because it's highly implied that she's leaving Earth. The guy who came in to get Guinan's Pitbull was that dude from Impractical Jokers. I could see it from a mile away. From a mile away, that's the dude from Impractical Jokers, and just because that's so meme-worthy, I was weirdly excited that I saw him there getting Guinan's dog. I love Star Trek Picard Season 2. And then also we need to talk about probably the way bigger cameo that Star Trek fans actually care about in this episode, is that the Star Trek punk bus dude has made a return. There is a scene in this episode where Raffi and Seven are traversing through Los Angeles trying to find Chris Rios. They're using public transportation. There's a dude, he's basically the Star Trek punk from Star Trek A Voyage Home, and I'm pretty sure it is the same actor too. Kirk Thatcher. I didn't go back into the credits to confirm. Almost 80% sure that was still Kirk Thatcher, the dude who was in Star Trek A Voyage Home. Basically the bus punk that Spock did the Vulcan neck pinch on to shut him up, and it was a beautiful scene. 7 of 9 basically just got a little bit aggressive with him, and he was like, okay, I'm sorry, I'll turn it down. I just like this song. I apologize. It seems that Kirk Thatcher, aka the Star Trek bus punk, has learned his lesson from Spock. It's just just beautiful. Oh, that was such a good scene. Brownie points. Plus brownie points for that. While Raffi and Seven are going through Los Angeles, they finally get in communication with Agnes. They are going around LAPD trying to find where Chris Rios is. They go to the clinic. They explain to them how they were basically kidnapped by ICE, and Raffi gets extremely frustrated with just how crap LAPD are, how unhelpful they are, and just like they could get nothing done. Cops kind of suck. Civil protectors, civil servants are an absolute joke in this era, in the 21st century. By the way, Chris Rios has experienced the whack-ass cages that they put illegal aliens into in this country, and after he's been abused by ICE. The fact that we're all disconnected sovereign countries who are very xenophobic and very scared of each other, it's very unproductive. It's the #1 sin that we commit as humans in this world, probably, and it's just very great to see America, supposed #1 country in the world, how we treat people coming in and leaving the country who aren't citizens of the state. Very good scenes with Chris Rios. Seven and Raffi steal a police cruiser using some of their 24th century technology, and they use it with the intention of going after Chris Rios. However, Chris Rios' bus is like an hour away, so they ring up Agnes. This entire episode, the systems are implied to be out because the Borg Queen is fucking with them and kind of wants them to be out. Agnes, on the other hand, is just like a super genius squared, and she's able to play mental mind games and communication games with the Borg Queen. Incredibly badass scenes that just make Agnes seem like the character she definitely should be. Just like this extremely competent doctor who just on another level understands cybernetics and understands the Borg Queen to a point where it's definitely intimidating her because she gets stirred up in this episode. Basically, Agnes makes a deal with the Borg Queen to just, I guess, link some more and give more of herself over to the Borg Queen in order to restore some of those systems so that they could actually transport Raffi and Seven to Chris Rios' location, which happens. This episode ends off with them being teleported a little bit in front of the deportation bus, and it's just implied that next episode they are going to have to hijack it with their phasers without affecting the timeline too much, so I can't wait to see that. Picard is finally able to convince Guinan to allow him to see a Watcher. It's a little bit whack how unwilling to help Guinan is to Picard because she doesn't know his identity. She acts like she doesn't know what a Watcher is until the moment that Picard finally says his name, and like I said, I was a little bit sussed out because I was like, is this a canon mistake? Because in Time's Arrow, Guinan did see some version of Picard, but when Picard finally revealed his name, it's almost like she understood right then and there that it was time to help him. So I feel like that kind of fixed that doubt in my head that that was a canon mistake. Guinan then leads Picard to this, Central Park area. This little girl walks up to them and starts BMing Guinan, is super pissed at Guinan, does not like her whatsoever, which then reinforces the fact that Guinan did not just want to tell a weird stranger the location, the identity of a Watcher without them giving identification. That makes a lot more sense to me now, because when they actually did meet the Watcher, it was kind of a big deal, and the Watcher was a little bit pissed to be inconvenienced by Guinan like that. The Watcher has the appearance of a little girl, leads Picard over, makes sure that he does not bring a communicator. It's a really funny scene, and then we start to realize that the Watcher is not this little girl. It's actually definitely some powerful being that takes over bodies almost like a ghost and just takes over them like host bodies. A couple host bodies are then switched through. I know a lot of people thought that they had already seen the Watcher because they saw that second host body or the third one with the big white eyes, and we just all assumed that it was that guy, but it's really cool to see that that's actually not the Watcher. And the big in this episode is at the end of the episode, the Watcher's consciousness finally leaves the third host body that is leading Picard through this park area to an area where nobody will see them. And the last host body, because I don't think that this is the Watcher. It's kind of freaking absolutely crazy if this is actually the fact. At the end of the episode, turns out to be Loris, of all people, who in this particular timeline is said to have been killed. Well, at this point in the timeline does not exist. But the Watcher has taken the form, or maybe is the form, of Picard's friend Loris. And then Loris just kind of takes Picard and leads them through this door. It just seems like this heavenly door that opens. They walk through and it closes. I'm just so perplexed. Then right after that, there's just this little scene where Q is giving this little monologue, observing this human girl at a cafe, and then he attempts to use his Q powers and they don't work, which just kind of leaves the viewer to believe that there is something extremely wrong with the Q continuum, to the point where it's messing with Q's ability to use his powers. So it's gotta be some crazy giant universal time, something that is so big that it is starting to affect a society of omnipotent godlike beings that can just travel through the multiverse, travel wherever they want, don't age, and know everything. So exciting, this episode. I don't even know what to say about the Loris thing. What do I say about that? I have no guesses. I would like to maybe compare this to some previous archetype that has shown up in Trek before, but there's really nothing like this. The Watcher is very cool. It's very mysterious. How does Guinan know them? How does Guinan have a relationship with them? It's revealed that these Watchers are almost these guardians that are peppered throughout the galaxy. They're like guardian angels. They're super mysterious, and aside from that, we really don't know much else. It's kind of killing me. I want to see the next episode already. This one was extremely solid. They had some fire Easter eggs. Again, the cast just did a great job. I am seeing another flawless episode. I do not see any flaws or anything that I'm unhappy with. I am just thoroughly entertained, and that is why this episode is getting a 7.5 out of 10. When I go back to Discovery next season, or when I go to review any other Trek, I'm gonna have to get a lot more critical with my scores, because I think it's been, you know, a long time since I've given a 4, or I rarely give them. I really need to have the courage to give lower scores, because, you know, I need to set the bar higher. This is getting a 7.5. I really want to give it an 8, but I'm just gonna give this one like a 7.5. It was really good. I had a lot of fun. What did you guys think, though? Do you think that Loris is the Watcher? How can that be? Or is this just another form that the Watcher is taking, maybe to make Picard more comfortable? What's up with that? I'm very also interested to see where this plot line with Agnes and the Borg Queen goes. I love their relationship. I love how the Borg Queen has kind of been humbled, been just, you know, crucified at the mercy of the Picard goon gang, and Agnes is kind of beating her ass at 5D dimensional chess, and I'm all here for it. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. It is good to be back reviewing just a single episode of Star Trek every week. If you have anything that you would like to comment, leave it down in the comments below. I will be sure to read it. Click the link down below to have discourse about the discussions that we have here on the channel. The link is in every description of every video to join my Discord. Very close to 1,000 subscribers. When I hit that subscriber mark, I am going to be getting a neck tattoo. So if you enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, I'd be very flattered if you were to subscribe. And with all that being said, hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Live long and prosper.